What is he actually thinking? What is he worried about? And what is Kashin Koji really afraid of? Yep, that's at least the big question mark for the fandom right in the middle of the Konoha versus Shinju operation. I'm Nim, without the E, and for the next at least 8 minutes, let's break this down. The reason behind Kashin Koji's expression that honestly feels like a huge red flag, as if something is seriously not okay. So yeah, talking about Kashin Koji's expression at the very end of chapter 29, this definitely sparks a massive question mark, especially regarding this operation. But speaking of the operation itself, don't you guys feel like there might be something that even triggered an updated future timeline? Because as you already know, even something small or something that seems trivial, like an expression, in my opinion, is not something we can just ignore. Not because it's unimportant or anything like that, but rather because I'm convinced that for the fandom, every single odd detail like this is going to be a clue moving forward. Whether it ends badly or turns out the opposite, at the very least, something is going to happen, right? Now, as a Boruto addict who loves looking at things from multiple perspectives, there might be one out of these three possibilities that actually explains why Kashin Koji's expression feels so off, like it's clearly not signaling anything good. Right in the middle of an operation that on the surface seems to be going smoothly without any intervention whatsoever. First and foremost, to guess or perhaps more accurately analyze the trigger for his worried expression or something similar, we can start with the singularity of fate itself. Yep, he is Boruto. The reason why Boruto is the answer is simple. He is the singularity of fate. Every small action or hidden plan that Boruto carries out without involving Kashin Koji will automatically trigger an updated and branching future. Whether it's for the worse or the better, at least those two things are certain to happen. Based on the facts that have already occurred, Kashin Koji himself stated that after Boruto and Kawaki's battle against Jura in the Land of Wind ended, Koji declared that this was the beginning of something far more terrifying. Because, as you saw in this one panel, believe it or not, this is the result of Boruto saving his friend in the Land of Wind. Because once again, what Kashin Koji said about Momoshi's move targeting Ida, added to this dark timeline, is at least enough to prove that the future has changed, right? But if we take a brief look back, especially at chapters 25 and 26, there is something that has not been revealed so far. I mean, we know that after Boruto saved all his friends and returned to Konoha, Boruto made a soul negotiation with Momoshiki. Now at this point, the big question is Kashin Koji, because in the next chapter, somehow Kashin Koji finds out that Boruto made a deal with Momoshiki. And even though from this dialogue it seems that Kashin Koji doesn't really know what Momoshiki and Boruto were talking about or what the negotiation was, at least Koji knows that Boruto made an offer to Momoshiki. And once again, because at this point Boruto and Momoshiki are conducting a negotiation within the soul, something that literally cannot be known by anyone except the two of them. Yeah. You know what I mean, right? So how could Koji know about it? Does he have another ability or something like that? Or perhaps the very moment Boruto made a deal with Momoshiki, Koji realized that this indirectly triggered an updated future once again? And if we move on to the case at the end of chapter 29, Kashin Koji's expression truly seems to indicate that Momoshiki agreeing to help Boruto is what made Koji's expression completely different. Because no matter what, Boruto is a singularity of fate, and even the smallest of his actions will change the future. So, in conclusion, it seems quite reasonable that in the midst of a smooth operation without any intervention to reduce the number of Mamushi, there was a major trigger that would even become a nightmare, both for Konoha and Kashin Koji himself. And that was the result of the negotiations between Boruto and Momoshiki. Second, Koji's expression was most likely influenced by the results of Mitsuki and Konohamaru's interrogation. Because as you know, thanks to Konohamaru, he made a decision that would truly threaten Shikamaru's position as Hokage. Instead of trying to protect Mitsuki so that it wouldn't be proven that he obtained the 4-digit code from Shikamaru to release Boruto, Konohamaru instead admits that the handcuffs were never locked in the first place due to his own mistake. Unfortunately, that confession ended up becoming something no one had ever anticipated before. Whether this comes across as ridiculous or unintentionally funny, at the very least it managed to spark Lord Kobu's suspicion toward Shikamaru. And if the worst case scenario, such as being removed from his position or something similar, causes Shikamaru to lose his authority to lead Konoha, then that would also have an impact on Kashin Koji himself. Because of course, in this operation, Kashin Koji entrusted everything to Shikamaru and Boruto. So if there were some things that were even beyond Koji's plan, it seems reasonable why Koji would be like that. Is that right? But the big question is, isn't it only fate singularities that can change the future timeline? Then what about Konohamaru? Because we know that he is not a fate singularity. Well, for this case, perhaps we can use Mamushi as an example. I mean, during Mamushi's invasion of Konoha, Kashin Koji himself did not expect that his arrival would be much sooner than expected. So that means, with a statement that the future has changed, starting from that point, Jippo's ability slowly lost its advantage in seeing the future accurately. Because besides that, several factors from several singularities of fate that are not mutually committed to one priority certainly become a cause for the future to change. Yeah, you know what I mean, right? For the third case, honestly, this might sound even more ridiculous than you think. But even though it can't really be said to be completely ridiculous, based on another perspective, the most reasonable explanation for why Kashin Koji made that expression in the middle of the operation against Mamushi without any intervention or something unexpected is that it was actually his normal reaction. I mean, in any situation, Kashin Koji always shows us a serious expression. After all, so far he is just like Boruto. And considering that the threat level of the Divine Tree is something that must be taken seriously, plus Kashin Koji also has the responsibility to steer the future in a better direction when there are so many internal interventions that cause the future to branch out. So I think it's a normal reaction for Kashin Koji. So, in conclusion, based on what happened in chapter 29, especially the factors that triggered the future to change once again, starting with the outcome of Boruto and Momoshiki's negotiations and the possibility of Shikamaru losing his authority, Kashin Koji's reaction was actually quite normal. At least, I think that's the most relevant representation or reason behind Koji's expression in the final panel of chapter 29. However, once again, if we look at various scenes in chapter 29, such as Kawaki's fight with Mamushi, Himawari fighting Mamushi using Kurama's chakra, or even Mamushi splitting his body into multiple bodies, like one becoming 100, doesn't seem to be a problem, nor does it appear to trigger any change in the future. Especially in Mamushi's case, because by dividing his body into multiple bodies, this operation itself seems to be part of his plan as well, right? But anyway, at least the three reasons I've explained are something that I think makes sense. And if you feel that there's something more specific, especially like secretly updating the future and making Kashin Koji give this kind of expression, let's talk about it in the comments. So yeah, thanks for watching, likes and subs. I'm Nim without the E. See you in the next video. Bye bye, Databayo.